sports-oriented, fantasy sports-oriented, featuring one of my all-time longest-running besties in the world, Tom and Legit. Thomas, want to introduce yourself?
How we doing, everybody? My name is Tommy. Known Peter for well over a decade now. I like sports. I like football. I like college football. I like pro football. I like fantasy football, and that's why we're here today. Just give you a little insight on what we think is going on in the world of football. It's coming up. You guys think it's a ways off? Not quite. We're almost done with basketball and hockey. That means it's baseball and that's it. It's the home stretch. Let's get after it.
Amen. The point of these episodes is going to be fantasy related. We play a lot of fantasy sports. When I say fantasy sports, I mean fantasy football. Really, the only matters. And we want to jump into that world. There's no limit on what we're going to talk about. We'll probably start off with just football and fantasy football for now, but that doesn't mean it's going to be limited to, as we are a fan of all things sports down the road. But I just wanted to jump in and share with you guys, as this is another huge segment of content creation of fantasy sports and the sports world. It's something that we both really enjoy. Want to share with you. Share it as kind of a test episode, but also see if it's something that you guys would be interested in. If you want to get on the show and talk to us, that would be great too. But want to send it out there as kind of a test episode and go from there. But yeah, we're gonna jump right into. We've both been in the same fantasy league, kind of off and on for what, 7 seasons, 6,
something like
2015.
Something like that. Yeah, it's been a minute, But
same league.
Yeah.
We've had people come and go, but the league's been around
for a couple different leagues, actually.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Yeah,
it's true. Creator league and kind of a friend league. Kind of a friend. They're our friends. A friend league, and we've had
until the game starts.
Yeah, yeah. So we want to just discuss and jump into kind of the fantasy, like what makes for example, what makes a good league, what makes a good member, draft strategies, players we like. Do we like new teams where players have landed in this NFL offseason, things like that. The first kind of jumping into, first of all, our main league is called Shark League. I do not remember why we call it that. I do not remember where it came from. It's a long time ago that we jumped in, but we have not changed that name. And it's now a 12-person league. It used to be a 10-person league for a long, long time. But again, it's hard to
12 for now. we might be reducing. We tried it out, and we'll see.
I think that's what makes a good league is the constant ebb and flow of who we need to get rid of and who we actually enjoy.
That's a little warning shot for any Shark League members swimming out there in the audience. Be careful. You're not quite the apex predator you think you are. All right.
Everyone's on the chopping block, to be honest. We've run it for a few years now, and obviously super, super fun. We have a good time. We have strong points in our league. We have places where we are not solid as a league. I think each league has their strengths and weaknesses. But we just wanted to kind of jump in and talk about a little bit about our league and then on the football side and see where it goes. First things first, wanted to talk to Tommy about what he thinks maybe makes a good league member. Pros league and cons member? Of league member. I think there's some clear answers, obvious answers, and I think there's also some like people who make bad members. I'm sure a lot of these leagues, fantasy leagues, share the same woes depending on the member. But yeah, do you have any input or insight or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I got a couple bullet points here. I came prepared, right? I got a game script in front of me. I'm ready to go. What makes a good league member? The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Good league member, you're participating, all right? You're in every event. You're showing up. You're in the Discord call. You're in the group text. You're setting your lineups. You're engaged, all right? Far too many leagues. I know there's plenty of leagues out there that have this problem. That bottom bottom 20% of the league or 10% of the league, they check out like week 5. And they lose 3 straight games, it's over for them. They don't even start setting their lineups. They don't pay attention to the group text. Some of them leave the Discord. It's over. And then you got teams that may be drafted high. You got a guy like Christian McCaffrey, but the rest of their team is dog water. Mm-hmm. And then you got this good players. Yeah. Go ahead. Panthers, Browns, Jets. Bears. You know what we're talking about. Bears, okay, Texans. These are the teams and players we're talking about, okay? With all due respect. But Cowboys sometimes. I'm just saying. Point being, now that we've rattled, 20% of the NFL fan base, participation is key, is what I'm saying.
Which is, by the way, a low bar. Just to be involved in the group text, just to join the Discord, whatever your form of communication is, that's an extremely low bar to just be there, be present.
Yeah, set your team lineup, every week. You got 18 weeks of football. Really, it's in fantasy. You're probably going to get 16 weeks. I don't even think they go full 18. But even regular season, you got 10 weeks? 10 weeks of this. You get a bye week in there for players, so you have to figure things out. It's low bar, bare minimum stuff.
By the way, if you set your lineup every week with just players that are active, you won't lose.
You won't lose every game. You might not make the playoffs.
Right.
But you'll be competitive. You'll be competitive.
But most likely you're not getting last.
No, unless you're just incredibly unlucky and have injuries or just drafted terribly.
Or think you know more than you actually do. That's the other side.
Hubris is the downfall of many in fantasy league. All right.
Fantasy hubris. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of fantasy hubris out there. Okay. We're looking at you, Keegan. You know who you are. We know. You know. Yeah. Second thing on my list here. Why not? Why? No. Leave it. Leave it. All right. He needs to know. He knows. Second thing. I already covered the second thing on my list, which is attentiveness to your team and the league message boards. Things that I kind of covered that a little bit, but basically to elaborate, making sure you're not leaving injured guys or guys that are out in your starting lineup, making sure that you're swapping out guys that are on bye week for active players, making sure that you're if guys are out for the season, you're swapping off your team. If they're gone, get rid of them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Making sure that you're doing the best that you can with what you got. You're not going to have the best players every week. Sometimes you got to get lucky if you're going to get a win. But just try. That's all we're asking. Third on my list, I got 2 more. Third on my list, shit talking. Shit talking is a good thing in fantasy league. Okay, I want a guy who's talking shit on the message boards within reason. Let's not get, I don't want actual threats of violence. Let's not go into that. But hey, I'm going to kick your ass this week. That's fine. That's fine for a fantasy football league. That's encouraged. We want participation. We want competitiveness. Shit talking is a big part of that. And there's a lot that comes along with that. Sometimes you get little side bets between guys because they get competitive. Within reason, nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's encouraged. And the last thing, and this is a big thing for me personally, we live in a society today that gets a little polarized. So I think a good league member keeps off-topic conversations out of league events and message boards, meaning we don't need politics, religion, anything like that in our fantasy football league. Group texts, group message boards, events. We don't need to go into that stuff. We're here to also not think about real world for maybe 20 minutes a day, if that, and enjoy football and have fun with our friends. Right? That's what's fun. Right? So those are the 4 things I had on my good list. Do you have any good qualities that you want to address?
For me, as someone who's been a GM in fantasy leagues, participation is by far and away the most that I would ask for. Which again, a low bar. If you're signing up and you're paying in, if you can watch your team play every Sunday, you can set your lineup. You can. You can do it. You can do it. You can actually just get up an hour before and then just do it anyway. Like, you can do it before you have time. You always have time to do it. So that would be, again, just like bare minimum, lowest bar, participate. You don't have to be in the group chat responding to everything every day, but setting your lineup for me is like, it's crazy. Like, it baffles me that you would even sign up if you can't set your lineup every week. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just like, to me, it's inexcusable. It doesn't make any sense. Especially if you're paying in. Like, what? I don't understand. I would never buy tickets to a movie and not go to the movie. Why would you do that?
I mean, we've been in leagues where we've seen guys who showed up for the draft or signed up for the league, bought in, didn't show up for the draft, auto-drafted, and never set their lineup their entire year.
I don't
like we've been in leagues when that happened. I'm serious. Yeah. And it's confusing. Why agree to join the league? And especially if you're there for the draft and you start and then you stop after like 3 or 4 weeks. It's a 10-week season for the regular season plus 3 or 4 weeks for the playoffs. So we're talking about 3 months of fun with your friends, 1 day a week or 2 days a week, whatever. 3 now, is it? Thursday, Sunday, Monday, sometimes Saturday.
With last year's Thursday night games, hopefully they take it back.
There were some fantasy relevant performances in those games, though. How many defenses won you games in those games?
All on
you know
Thursday.
What I mean? Yeah. Those Thursday defenses were the MVP of the fantasy season last year.
True.
So the concept of not participating, you're right. It's completely inexcusable, and it's, quite frankly, it's a fireable offense. Like, if you do that, I don't want you in my league. Yeah, get out.
That's another good question, though. How many people do the majority of leagues, do they have leagues where people are on the chopping block every year? And I'd like to think that our league has maybe entered that space. And maybe it's never left the space, but I feel like we've had at least 3-4 people cycle out. We've added people, but we've definitely subtracted people at least every other year.
I mean, I was one of those people. I subtracted myself out for a short time. But I would rather see, that's where I come from, is I would rather not participate than half-ass it or be frustrated about being there. So, especially if you're putting money into something, it's important for you to, everybody's putting money in. You don't want to ruin someone else's experience just because you're mad at something. Like, be cognizant of that in your leagues.
So
what else you got?
So for me, again, the lowest bar is participation. Setting your lineups should be the absolute bare minimum. Showing up. Okay, I would also put showing up to the draft as the bare minimum. I think those are must-haves. Showing up to the draft and setting your lineup week if you're solid. Obviously, like paying fees if you have fees or whatever. But outside of that, I think that's a bare minimum. If you can do that, I think you're covering the majority of what a good league member consists of. A great league member is someone who participates every week, someone who shit talks their opponents, someone who keeps like the group chats going best they can. I think anything extra is always good, but the bare minimum for me: set your lineup, show up to the draft, and pay your dues if there are any.
But sometimes the weather's nice though, and you got to go on a hike. So
you have 364 days to be available for the draft. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. It's sunny many days too. There's a lot of hikes you can do between.
Yeah, man. You never know. You never know.
No, I know. It's 364 days because the draft's only one day. So that would be my requirements, my expectations. If you're a GM out there, I think you should hold those expectations hard for you, the people in your league. Outside of that, anything extra is extra, in my opinion. It's obviously more fun, but you should cover those as your bare minimum. That would be opinion.
I don't disagree with that.
No. Now, on the opposite side, I would say, what's your opinion on making a good GM? Is that something that's interesting to talk about?
Before we get to GM, let's talk about what bad league members do. You got any particular bad qualities
not
for league
members?
Not
showing up for the draft? Not setting your lineup every week?
outside of the
Not paying
opposite
your
of what.
dues.
Well, there's two specific ones I came up with, right? That are qualities of bad members in your league, and you should really watch out for them. These are not the opposite of what we mentioned. That's obvious, right? But the first one I have is failure to perform league punishments. Okay, so if your league has agreed upon whether that's a buy-in or some sort of punishment for the last place team, and you fail to perform it because you just choose not to, oh, I'm not doing that. After you've already agreed to it at the start of the season, gone through the entirety of the season, and then lost, you are most likely not going to be in that league for very long, or you shouldn't be. I'm getting rid of you if I have a vote, because if there's no consequences, there's no risk. And if there's no risk, a lot of people lose interest anyway. So we already have those things in place to try to keep interest up. And now you're intentionally sabotaging it. So it's just like, well, there's no, there's no loser now,
Right.
I don't like that. And then the second thing I have here, and this is an interesting take because there is some fun in doing this, but I think it's a toxic quality for a fantasy league member, and that is intentionally sabotaging the league when you think you're out of it.
In what way?
So that's in what way? Meaning, so let's put it this way. I believe that you should be putting your best foot forward in every game that you can. And that if you are intentionally losing in order to sabotage someone else in the league who maybe you don't like, I think that's a little shady. Like if you're benching your whole team to give somebody else a win and that win knocks another guy out of the playoffs, that's messed up. You shouldn't do that. That breeds contentment. That breeds just the not the right vibes that you want around your league in terms of that's not competitiveness.
A little childish.
That's sabotage. That's cheating. That's just for lack of it. That's cheating. That's what it is. And there's one thing. There's another aspect of it that's kind of a gray area in this, and that is people trading away their best players to friends in the league that are on that borderline to give them a competitive advantage going to playoffs. Like when there's money on the line, that's if I'm trading. Just to give you an example, let's say I'm trading Saquon Barkley away and I'm getting Brandon McManus back. Like that's clearly there's highway robbery going on. You know what I mean? Like, so that's one of the reasons ESPN and other fantasy platforms put in the veto rule so that certain leagues, the league itself can vote to veto trades if they feel that they're unfair, overly unfair. So I think that's a good thing that ESPN's put on there. But I wanted to mention that because I know it's more common than we think. I know it's more common when you think. There are a lot.
Added it as a feature.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why ESPN added it as a feature.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, to touch on that, shifty trades, and this is when my idea of when someone who has an above average football knowledge targets someone who has a below average football knowledge and makes trades clearly based on that. So trading someone and going, yeah, it's a good trade, and then that person be like, yeah, it seems like a good trade, but the person with the upper hand clearly knowing that they have the advantage and then pushing that trade onto a less knowledgeable person. Because every league has someone who's just joined for fun, who just wants to hang out and participate, be a part, and is not actually, the knowledge of the game football at the highest level, and then pushing those trades.
Yeah, but in that instance, that's a little different than the trades I was saying, right? That specific trade, most of the time, if other representatives in the league are paying attention, right, they can see that and they will warn that person, hey, don't make that trade. Now, if they make that trade anyway, even though they've got multiple people saying, hey, what are you doing? What are you trading Cooper Kupp away for? What are you doing? You know what I mean? That happened in one of our leagues last year where a guy traded away Cooper Kupp for somebody who was not nearly as good. Right. And we were like, what are you doing? Don't do that. And he's like, no, I think that'll make sense. And then Cooper Kupp did what Cooper Kupp does. And the guy was middle of the season. The guy goes, because this was like week 1. And the middle of the season, the guy goes, oh, you might have been right.
Dude,
I think that was a bad move.
trading after the draft ends the same week. Game 1 starts. That
it was
blows
quick.
my mind.
It was quick.
Nothing's happened yet.
Exactly. And I was like, why are you trading that guy away? Especially for a player. I can't remember who it was for. We'd have to go back and look. But it was not an equal trade. It was very clearly not an equal trade. And the guy was like, what are you talking? The guy who wanted the Cooper Kupp was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
This. And I was like, no, you're there's a term for this. There's a term for this. Is this a PG-13 podcast? Are we allowed to?
No, we've already dropped some fuck bombs. So yeah, we're not sponsored.
Okay. All right. It's a term. It was coined in the show The League, and it's called that's what it is. It's what it's called. And I believe in that specific trade. In the show, the guy who was the perpetrator of the bad trade convinced another person to trade their best receiver for Plaxico Burress, and it was the year Plaxico Burress was in jail for carrying a firearm in a nightclub. So there you go. That's an example of the toxic behavior.
Yeah, those shifty trades, and it's happened in every league for sure. And it's just someone with a little bit of a higher football IQ. Clearly putting some pressure on someone with a lower football IQ, which is fine. I mean, having lower football IQ is fine, but that's why I would recommend too, if you're a GM, to take pictures of trades and post them to the group, and say, hey, just make this trade's going through. Does everyone chill with that? I think most people have a decent understanding and go, okay, that's fair. Maybe that's frowned upon. I don't know, but I like to make everything public because, let's be honest, no one's like really looking at the trade proposition emails which go out with trade.
They should be. They should be.
But they don't. I mean, they just don't. Like, it kicks your email. Most people are probably not checking in the app, so that's why I try to say, hey, this is happening. Everyone cool.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing to do. As someone who's been on both sides of that, where I think I'm getting the upper hand, or I think someone else is getting an upper hand. When I'm the one initiating the trade and I think it's a good trade for me and then it gets posted, I'm frustrated because I'm like, no, dude, just let it go. But I understand why it's done. I get it.
Yeah. I can see why people don't do it because they're like, hey, we don't need eyes on this. We don't want everyone to give their input. But I think it's important that
it certainly makes the trade less likely to happen. I think that's an environment. I think that's an environment where trades are like leagues that do that. You're not going to have as many trades. So if you're a league that likes a lot of trades, let it fly. But understand there's a difference between you have more football knowledge than somebody, and they just didn't have the knowledge to make the right decision, or they didn't reach out to the right people for advice, and they gave away a good player for not as great. And intentionally providing good players to your friends so that they have a competitive advantage when your team is underperformed. That's a different ballgame. Your area, I understand what you're saying. To me, that's more acceptable than what I was saying in terms of trades. But that's still, it's a gray area for sure.
Our leagues don't typically have a lot of trades in them. I would say we probably have less than 5 a year.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's because we're posting them. It's because we're posting them.
Yeah.
So that everybody can see them, and they were like, "Whoa, wait a minute! Whoa. You can't trade Tyler Lockett for Michael Bumpus." Like, what?
MB though, about to be rookie of the year. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Michael Bumpus is former Washington State Cougar great. He played a couple years in the league. He's long since retired. But
rookie of the year.
Not even close. Not even close. But he made it. I think he played in the Canadian Football League a little bit.
So those, I think these are good points. I think these are solid, at least a solid insight to what makes a good and bad league. Everyone has all of these things, everyone's experienced these members. Like I said, I think the conclusion is participate. If you're going to participate, pay the fees if you have fees. Set your lineup. That's the bare minimum. and don't be a shifty person behind closed doors. But you have a higher IQ, and you purposely target the person who knows the least, and everybody knows who knows the least, so you know what you're doing. Don't say it was an accident, because it's not. Yeah, I think that's a good coverage.
And on the flip side of that, if you know you don't have a lot of knowledge, you better find a friend in that league to help.
A trustworthy friend. Yeah.
A trustworthy friend, or somebody, better yet, outside the league who knows what they're doing, so that they can, if you want to actually be competitive and you're not just winging it and you don't want to get taken advantage of, do a little research, put a little extra time in, and you'll have more knowledge to work.
And a lot of those tools are actually in the app too. So like ESPN's not perfect. The IBM trade calculator, whatever that is for the ESPN leagues, it's not perfect, but it does give suggestions. It's not always wrong. So if you don't trust anybody, all the tools in the app.
And listen,
it gives you a decent chance.
Listen, Stone Cold Steve Austin always lived by that rule. DTA. Don't trust anybody. There you go.
There you go. So I think that's a solid start for, kind of, especially if you're new to fantasy. Keep those things in mind. We also wanted to briefly discuss, and we'll keep this one quick, punishments and rewards for fantasy leagues, what we like, what we don't like. You already touched on not doing your punishment is a big no-no. If you're going to buy in, you buy into the punishment as well. If you really have no intention of doing the punishment, just don't even sign up. I think like some of our better punishments, I would say even this year might have been our best.
Which is bad.
Which is not. We don't have a high bar for the punishments and rewards. Well, let's just talk about the rewards first. First of all, we have a custom trophy for Shark League. It has been pieced together by at least 2 individuals. We have a couple of woodworkers in our midst. Our buddy Dan has actually built the base himself, which is an all wood base, and Keegan has actually made the nameplates for the trophy. So it looks kind of like I don't even know what to call it, but just any winner, the name, the team name, and the year, and it's put on a little piece of metal nameplate and put onto the trophy. So eventually it's going to have a bigger and bigger base as time goes on. We'll cover it 360 degrees with these nameplates, with a painted chrome shark on top that has been super glued, or I'm pretty sure it's been super glued on top. It breaks every time we send it to the winner. So I don't know how much time it has left as far as the staying on top, but yeah, we do have a custom trophy. It is pretty sick. I think custom made. Go ahead.
Couple things on that. Okay, just a fun little insight. It's intriguing that the geologist Dan would make a wood base instead of using some sort of stone. You would think that'd be more in his wheelhouse, but it does look nice. And the second thing is, for a coveted prize to be so mistreated so many times. Like, you guys, we can't pay $25 to ship it UPS, get it nice and neat, put a fragile sticker on it. We got to throw it in a rucksack and hope it survives, getting checked. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I will say that if you guys can, try to avoid buying a pre-made trophy. If you hand make it between your members, however ugly it might look, it is better. I firmly believe.
Especially if it's broken 2 or 3 times.
If you can custom build it and whatever that looks like, whatever your league name is, build it around it. Don't buy like the pre-made ones. They're easy, yeah. They're like maybe good for your work league, I guess, but don't like hand make it if you can. You'll appreciate it more, and it's gonna get uglier over time. So I think that our recommendation as far as the trophy. If you have a monetary buy-in, cool. It's not required. We do have one. We're trying to. It used to keep going up. I think we've come to a base level where we're not going to go above a certain cost. Because I think you say that it takes away from what the spirit of be.
I have a controversial take on this. Okay, the vast majority of adult fantasy football leagues in the United States, I would wager, have some sort of monetary buy-in. Speaking of wagers, I don't like it. I don't believe fantasy football, you need to put money on it to have fun. But I'm in the minority, I believe, because I just love football and I love screwing around with my buddies and talking a lot of shit. But that's me. the money aspect to be invested in it. But when our league was initiated, we only had the trophy. So our initial buy-in was to fund the trophy. And the concept initially was this will be the prize at the end of the year. So the buy-in was really only going to be for 1 year. At least that was the initial idea. And then the trophy would be the prize moving forward. It evolved to that. Then it kept going up and up and up. I don't dislike, playing in the league. It's just I'm not a fan of paying to play fantasy football. I just don't. There's other things I could spend my money on. I just like playing fantasy football and competing with my buddies. That's what I like. So that's my opinion on it. I know it's controversial. I know it's not the most happy and joyful opinion, but it is what it is.
I do like it. I do like the thought behind it. My only pushback is it's hard to keep people playing all year. I mean, I hope it wouldn't be, but it is. And I feel like sometimes having a little incentive keeps people going. It's by week 13, especially if you're losing, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. It happens. It's happened to all of us. We've all felt that way. That's my only thought behind it. Because everyone's got a range of how much they actually enjoy playing fantasy, being involved that way, versus just watching. It's oh yeah, I got this team. I set my lineup. That's it. So that it's because I would say that you're probably the biggest fan by far of everyone in our league. And then we have a couple other people, and I think you know who they are, who are the least interested in the sport itself.
Listen, these are people that have just to defend them. Okay, they have families with small children. They have real jobs. Okay, and what they would deem important jobs, and they like to let us know about that. The point being, is I understand how fantasy football wouldn't be at the top of their priority list when they have small children and spouses.
Which is insane to me.
Yeah, I don't. Can you imagine if I had to try and take care of a kid? This isn't what this podcast is about, but okay. I'd much rather peruse the waiver wire than have to worry about changing stuff. I'm just throwing that up. So we're talking about rewards. We mentioned some of the stuff we do. I had some ideas, a couple of ideas on unique ones that might also be included for some other leagues out there. Maybe somebody's doing it. If you are, if you got a reward that we don't talk about, throw it in the chat, throw it in the comments, give us ideas. We're just like you. We're always trying to improve our league too. One of the things I thought of was event tickets, right? I think it'd be cool. I know there's some leagues out there where the prize is, tickets to go to the NFL draft or the Super Bowl.
Dude, that's great. First of all, who's affording Super Bowl tickets for their fantasy league? That's nuts.
Okay, first off,
that's crazy.
There are fantasy leagues out there with tens of thousands of dollars to buy into them. It is a large money market. It is a big money revenue stream for the NFL, for ESPN, for everybody that handles fantasy football. So our little $25 buy-in or whatever the hell it is with a little shark trophy, that's small potatoes compared to some of the leagues out there. That's one thing. But I thought I was just throwing that out there as a cool little thing. And then the fourth one I had, I don't think I've ever heard of this done before. And I refer to it as patronage. And I think of it like Game of Thrones, where you have to swear fealty to the champion here at this point, where everyone, you set an agreed upon spending limit, right? Where you want to get somebody, in let's say it's $40 to $50, right? Similar to what a buy-in would be, but instead of a money pot, you have to buy something $40 to $50 worth of something for the winner of the league, and then you put it all together in like a gift basket or something, and then like this, or everybody comes and presents it like the three wise men, to here's your incense, my lord, and like there it is, because you can do anything with that. Somebody go out there and buy, like, it has to be between $40. Somebody comes back with $40 worth of Peeps. Here's your Peeps. Just they can fuck with people like that too. And so I think that would be funny. and humbling to whoever wins the league as well, because you're gonna have bragging rights. You're gonna have a lot of bragging rights. Did you have any other unique rewards?
What do you think about like a winner's jacket, like the Masters?
Yeah. I don't dislike that at all. I think I'd throw that under like the trophy moniker. I actually had that. I had the inverse of that in my punishments list. So it's definitely something that could happen. But here's the question then: is it a jacket you pass down every year, or do you win a new jacket every time? So like if you win the league 4 times, if you win the league 4 times, do you get 4 jackets?
Well, not everyone's gonna fit the same size jacket. I think it's a cool thought that if the league, as we get older, everyone's moved around the country. I think it's a cool thought that if we ever get to a point or we have these times where we can all meet up together to do fantasy related stuff, people can, who have won the league, wear their jacket swag to those drafts. And I think it would really just make the other members feel bad who haven't won, and I really like that.
I think the best, probably the best option for that would be, because you can't really do a ring, can't really do a watch. Jackets not going to really work too well. Maybe a hat. But I think if you want to get somebody like a unique thing every year, and you got a little bit of money, because I don't know how expensive it's going to be to get something custom like this, but a chain, like a fake chain with the league name or the league logo and as your championship chain.
Ooh, and then like a turnover chain or something?
Yeah, okay. Except you could get a new one every year. So like if you win the league 4 years, you show up to an event, you got 4 freaking chains on. You look like 2 chains on squared coming in. That could be funny, right? And it's similar to like NBA championship rings, except everybody's got different ring sizes. Whereas you just order a chain. It's one size fits all. It's a chain. You know what I mean? Right, so that was something.
I think the chain off the top of my head. Because it would just be it'd be like plastic, but so
yeah. Yeah, well then you'd have one for every year too. It'd be like a Shark 23, and then like you have different Shark for the next year and like different logos and stuff. And with 3D printing the way it is now, I mean, you can make them easy.
I wonder if Ryan could change.
Yeah, it's a throwback. But check out what was that? Was that earlier season 2?
Season 2, first up.
Yeah, you go check out that episode. I'll put the link in the description. It'll be good.
Our buddy Ryan, aka Prodigiosis, aka Dota Star, he 3D prints and does a lot of 3D printing, and I think that would actually be really cool. You could retroactively set up anyone.
And anyone who also wants 3D chains printed for their league and likes that idea, Brian's links in the description too. You can hit him up.
That's funny. I'll send a message. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, the market is just infinite for 3D printing.
I do think some kind of like something to don as you meet up. People can wear it during the drafts. I think that as far as photos, what this really comes back to, in my opinion, is like keeping in touch with your homies. So as you get older, everyone moves away. Like really, fantasy football is a huge part of like this community around. Now that we're not all by each other, so I think that's to have some kind of like. For me, that's the biggest part of like just keeping everyone. And so having some kind of some to wear, some to sport, some to brag about, some to talk shit with. I think that's.
Yeah, I got nothing but love for you guys, but some of y'all need to, figure it out. Just be invested, okay? But anyway, let's move on to punishments. So we talked about the prizes. Now let's talk about the punishments. What do you got listed as some common punishments that or the best punishments?
I can talk about punishments that we've experienced as a league before. Whether all of our players have actually carried them out is another story. But things that we've had on the table, things that our league has carried out. We did ask the last place player from last year to rock some New Balance dad shoes for a month. So doing everything that you would normally do, work, going out, whatever. As long as you're rocking these New Balance dad shoes, that's what you had to do. We did do a diner run, so they had to be in a diner for 12 hours. Every food item that they ate subtracted 30 minutes off their time. They went pretty hard. Little mistake on my end, maybe, of not setting like what each food item was worth. So we kind of just winged it, and they made stuff up on the spot of like, yeah, steak's worth an hour and a half, right? Or like things like that. Not the best. Didn't really pan out.
Yeah,
well.
that's a problem. People audibling. That's the problem.
Yeah, you don't want that. It's got to be, first of all, huge headache. Getting everyone to agree to a punishment the beginning of the season is a huge nightmare.
100%.
Which it shouldn't be, but it is. So, and we had one gentleman offer to do a 1 year we had like you offered to cook a meal for the entire league. So he did host a barbecue at his place, made a big spread for everyone. Problem is, not everyone lives by that guy. So for those of us who are transplants in different states, we couldn't attend. Kind of a waste. Not a waste, but not everyone can partake and enjoy and spoils of what that is. Things that we did have on the table that were never carried out, taking the SAT, which is probably a pretty common one at this point. I'm trying to think of some older ones. This place.
How about a bumper sticker? I remember bumper sticker.
We do have a license plate cover.
Yeah, was that ever done?
Yeah, because that's been passed around a few times.
Okay, because that was like initially that hadn't been done. We had it, we got it, and like 2 years it went unused.
Yeah, it's been used at least twice. It's supposed to be every year. I don't know where it's at now. Again, this punishment is like an extreme struggle for our league to get people to agree to. I don't know why. It just is. So I think actually even doing this show, I think this will be a good way for us to like come up with a solid punishment, get input from anyone who listens, and really get this in stone before like several months before the starts.
Yeah. So I have a couple just common, I would say, punishments that I think are out there. The first one, it's the inverse of the winner's trophy. It's a loser's trophy. In the league, they call it the sacco. It's literally jock strap.
Why don't we have this?
On a loser's trophy? Simple. You have to display it on your mantle at all times. If your wife's pissed at you, sorry, honey, I lost the league. This is what we signed up for. Okay, we're a team. We win as a team. We lose as a team. We either got a shark up there or a nutsack, and that's the losing team. It doesn't have to be a nutsack, folks, but something loser trophy looks bad. It shows
something nutsack shaped. I think would be appropriate.
It's funny. Second, this is an idea that trends from the younger generation that we have right now, and that's like a social media post, like a derogatory fantasy football related derogatory social media post that you have to post on all your social platforms. In today's world, the younger kids, that's a huge deal to them, right? So it is a punishment. I think guys our age are just like, okay, whatever, we throw it up, it's not a big deal. But that was just an idea. Third one I got here is we talked about a winner's jacket. It's a loser's jersey. It's a customized jersey that the loser has to pay for, right? That basically says last place or bad at fantasy, something along those lines, and it's just a loser's jersey, and they have to wear that similar to the New Balance shoe idea for an extended period of time.
I like.
And the last one, and the last one is an extreme idea. It's been done many times, and that's a tattoo, a loser's tattoo. I lost the league, whatever. Inversely, there are people that get winners' tattoos if they win their fantasy football league. And if it's that big of a deal to you, you're doing fantasy football right. That's what you're doing a good job if it's a big deal to you.
That's a great point.
But as a punishment, it might be a little extreme. Not everybody has tattoos. Not everybody likes tattoos. Some people can't have tattoos for their job. So that might be a little bit extreme for certain leagues out there. Do you have any punishment ideas outside of the ones that maybe we did before?
One that was brought up actually that I think would be really, really funny is that you have to join a martial arts gym and achieve a certain level of belt. That could be any type of martial art. I think karate was the one that was proposed. So, join the karate gym, achieve whatever color belt that is, previously determined by the league, and then again, this is a very involved one, but then the league attends your belt ceremony. Hilarious. That said, everyone's pretty far spread out, so it would end up being a pretty expensive excursion.
Yeah.
And
then you also got to factor in different levels of athletic ability. If you're a 35 or 45-year-old man who's just starting karate against young people, you may be physically stronger than them, but you are definitely not as limber as those kids are. It might take you
3 years.
Yeah, so we're talking about 3 years of karate lessons potentially, or however long it's going to be. The cost for that is ridiculous. Yeah, so I mean, I can't support that entirely, but it's yeah.
I think that was really funny.
A month of lessons, I think, would be like more appropriate. And then I'm sure you can get a little certificate for did a month of Haikido or whatever. You know, you do a month of Haikido, you're essentially Seagal. So
that's about right.
Yeah, that's about right. I had a go ahead.
No, you got it.
I didn't know if you had any more.
That was one that has come up. I'd still like to see the SAT done, but I feel like maybe that's overplayed, outplayed maybe a little bit. My struggle is that it's not even guaranteed that someone does it. And I haven't put a whole lot of thought into it. It's like, well, punishment. We've had so many prospects. We had like open a lemonade stand, which I think could be funny. You just need people who actually commit to it. Anything in public, I think, is like a fun thing. But again,
yeah. Well, one of the things we had talked about, and this was brought up as not only a punishment but potential way to choose a draft order, which I'm sure is a topic we'll discuss further down the line and maybe a different episode. But that's taking the Wonderlic test, which is what's used that all the NFL draft prospects take it. And then it's released, and usually one of the major quarterbacks scores poorly on it, and then everybody says, "Oh, they're going to be a failure in the league because they didn't score well on the Wonderlic." Who gives a crap? You know, it's a problem-solving test. That's all it is. So, but that was another one.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to touch base on in terms of punishments reward is timeline for completion, and I got a couple things on here, and I said in terms of the length of time that you're allotted to complete the punishment for the league, right? If it's a punishment that consists of you doing something for a period of time, like wearing a pair of shoes for 30 days or doing a month of karate classes, you must start that within 30 days of the league ending. So 30 days of the championship game, within that time period, you must start your punishment. And then if it's a singular, like one-time event, right, that you have to do, it has to be completed no later than 30 days before the draft for the next year, right? Because if it might take some scheduling or planning to do it, like taking the SAT or something like that, you know, they may only offer it certain months out of the year. So that's one thing I wanted to touch base on. And then on the other side of that, the punishments for not completing your agreed upon league punishments, right? So I came up with a couple of things, like if you don't do it, like we explained, we have guys that have opted out of doing the punishments on a year-to-year basis, like taking the SAT, right? And it's frustrating because, you know, everybody's trying not to finish last at the bare minimum so they don't have to do that. And then for the person who finishes in that unfortunate position to just opt out of it because they're like, no, I don't have to do that. You can't tell me what to do. Get out of here. We don't want you in our league. But here's three things. Losing a draft pick. So that would entail your first round draft pick. If you don't do your league punishment, when your first round draft pick comes up, right? The league champion from the previous year, or we could vote on, gets to choose your first round selection. So you could end up with a fourth string running back in the first round because you didn't do your league punishment. The second thing is an increased entry fee if you have these money leagues. Okay, it's $20 buy-in. You didn't complete your entry fee, your punishment for last year. Your buy-in's $30. You have to pay 50% more to start in this league this season because you didn't do your league. That way, there's going to be people, I guarantee if that's the rule, there's going to be people that just don't do their punishment and just pay the money because they don't want to do it. And then at the very least, the person who wins the next year, they get a little bit bigger prize. You know what I mean? And then here's the third and final straw for me. If you fail to complete both the league punishment and the extra punishment, that results in termination from you're gone. If you're not going to do what you need to do, why are you here? Why are we doing this with you? We can find another way to hang out with you if you're one of our friends. But this is fantasy football. This is why we're here. We're here to hang out. We're here to communicate with each other. But ultimately, we're in a fantasy league. We're playing fantasy football. That's what it's about. So I know it seems harsh. I know a lot of people might disagree with that in the fantasy community. But I do know there's probably some people out there that are like, preach to the choir, King, you know? So what do you think?
I think I don't necessarily agree with the money one, especially if it's like, I feel like people are like, well, should I just pay $10 extra this year, or should I go do this super humiliating thing? I think what you said is about multiple punishments and then being kicked out is more of a I like that more than just like paying more.
Yeah, and I was just
take
trying
the easy road out with my
for sure.
input.
That's why I mentioned that. Yeah, that's why I mentioned that as a possibility. But I just wanted, like, the only one I could think of off the, when I was going through my notes was that, you lose a draft pick, and that's directly from the NFL playbook, right? You get caught tampering. What happens? You lose your first round draft pick. That happened this year in this draft. I believe it was it to the Dolphins or the Jaguar, one of the Florida teams. Somebody lost a draft pick in the first round. I think it was the Dolphins.
For tampering? What did they do?
They were calling Tom Brady when he was on the Patriots.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be harsh, I think. I know, they're supposed to be your friends and stuff, but it has to be because there's money involved, and money gets weird, and especially friends, it gets weird. So either follow the rules or you can get out.
And here's the thing, guys. Everybody out there is in a fantasy league. All right? Whatever the punishment is, okay? The most serious thing I've seen, that's in terms of potentially life-threatening, not even life-threatening, but life-altering, really, is a tattoo. Because now you have something permanent on your body, or maybe not permanent, but very difficult to get rid of on your body for the rest of your life, right? Everything else out there, it's a temporary inconvenience, not even pain, inconvenience for 4 months of fun.
For memories.
And if you're not willing,
for memories.
And if you're not willing to do that, and you still want to be in the league, then we're going to sabotage your team to an extent from winning the next year too. So you have to get that punishment again and still have to do it. And it just will turn into a revolving door, and you're just going to hate being in the league until you leave. We don't want to do it. Speaking I'm not a commissioner. Speaking as a league member, I don't want to be fire and brimstone and be chastising guys and ripping them for not doing their punishments and bullying them and being like, for lack of a better put it, but bullying them. Like, hey man, what the hell? Why aren't you doing this? Why are you being a pansy about this? But it's not that hard. Go take the SAT. Okay, it's a Saturday morning. One Saturday.
You can go party the night before. Nothing's stopping you.
100%. It doesn't matter what score you get. Most likely, you're not trying to get into college. At least if you're over the age of 25, you're probably not. That SAT doesn't really have any life-changing,
right.
factors
you're out
to
$50 and that's it.
Yeah, is it $50? I don't know how much it is.
I just made that up.
But it's only like the worst case scenario is you get a bunch of high school kids that are creeped out. Like, why is this, why is this 30-year-old in our shut up, dude? I'm trying to get into Princeton.
I'm trying to go back to school.
Listen, it's never too old to learn something. You know what I mean? It's never too old to learn something. So
I think you should have to wear a sign that says "I got last," though, something like that.
All right, it don't matter. It don't. No, I'd rather you be full in, or like a pocket protector. I think you should just be all in. Like, I'm trying to ace this test.
Yeah.
You're ready to go. You got 2 Red Bulls. They don't have vodka in them. They might have vodka in them, But it is what it is. You know, you're 30. You know, you're not 18.
What are they gonna do? Kick you out? Like, come on, who cares? Right?
Which would be even funnier.
Which would be even funnier
if you get kicked out for cheating in the SAT when you're retaking it at 30 from a fantasy punishment, and you're looking over some 18-year-old's shoulder trying to figure out what the best answer to the short story question is. That's hilarious to me.
You got an iPad? Just
hey, did you get A for this? Did you get A for this?
For 31, did you get C? Everyone has a different test.
Everyone's like, shh. All the proctors, shh, no talking. Keep your eyes on your own test. And you're just like, fuck you. And you're just like, excuse my language, but you know, there's ways to make this fun, guys. But people take themselves too seriously, and then they make things worse for everybody, right? If you're gracious and if you lose your league and you lean into it, you're gonna have fun. Everybody in the league's gonna have fun. Everyone's gonna love having you in that league. Mm-hmm. And the worst case scenario is you got a new pair of New Balances. Congratulations, you have a very comfortable pair of shoes.
You have lawn-mowing shoes for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Quite frankly, that was the best punishment. I wanted to lose last year. I legitimately, there was a part of me I was like, man, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind it. I need a new pair of shoes anyway. Like, New Balances are sick. I wear them every day.
Super.
I love New Balance. Yeah. They are. They're a great shoe. Great company. This episode is brought to you by New Balance. Not really.
Can you imagine though? One day.
Holy smokes! Could we be like cover athletes? Just like, can you imagine New Balance's cover athletes? It's like who's New Balance? Who's New Balance? Was that Victor Oladipo? Like who's
seems like an Olympics type company.
New Balance is the Olympic one.
I don't know. They just seem like one. You know what I mean?
Just Coco Jones or whatever. What was the chick?
I know.
Was the chick that got suspended for smoking weed when she was running the 4x1?
Right?
Yeah.
She just raced again.
She's fast as hell. Very talented young woman. All right. We got anything?
Well, we are at about 57 minutes, so we can do. I'm thinking either one more topic or we can wrap it up at that.
I mean, I can keep going. It's like completely.
I did have one more topic I wanted to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
And before we go, I wanted to touch on custom rules for fantasy football, and these would be rules outside of the default, whatever your league is, Yahoo, ESPN, NFL, whatever. Every league has a default set of rules as far as scoring goes, as far as the types of players you can have on your team, the number of the types of players that you can have on your team, that type of thing. We've had different custom rules for our league over the years. We typically try to change at least one rule every year to keep things fresh, keep things interesting. I have some ideas of what our best and worst custom rules have been, but just wanted to bring that out and maybe touch on that before we wrap up this first episode.
Yeah, I don't have much on this because I got to be honest with you. I'm a purist, okay? For the longest time in fantasy football, I was a standard league or bust guy, okay? I wasn't even a PPR guy. Then I warmed up to PPR over the years. PPR has become okay.
We are half point.
Half point or full point, it's become okay. It's higher scoring. It's just like the NFL. We want more points. We want more action. Okay, these 80 to 75 games don't cut it anymore. Yep. I get it. Okay, I get it. You want to see 169 on the board, and you'd be like, "Look at that, 169." Yeah, I get it. I get it, guys. I get it. But I've seen leagues that have a punter section where you can draft a punter or a defensive player. What are we doing? What are we doing, guys? This is fantasy football. I'm not drafting a defensive end hoping he gets home. Like that. That's what I have a defense for, an entire defense. I get it. There's different ways to do it, but I'm kind of a purist. There's only one rule that I've experienced that I liked, and that's outside of the norm, and that is the rookie-only flex. I think that specific variable is so intriguing because it keeps people engaged in NFL in terms of fantasy relations throughout the offseason, right? Because you got to pay attention to the draft. Where are some of these rookies going? Where are some of these rookie receivers, these rookie running backs, these rookie tight ends? Where are they going? Right? Are they going to good systems? Are they going to be the bell cow back at where they're at? Are they going to be the number one wide receiver with a good quarterback who hasn't had receivers?
Are they even going to play?
Are they even going to play at all? Who's that third, fourth round guy that's going to explode? It challenges members of the league to do homework outside of what a normal fantasy team would do. That's why I like it. We've already established I'm probably one of the bigger fantasy football or football fans in our leagues. So this is right up my alley. This is something that I really enjoy, and it is a crapshoot. You don't know what a rookie's going to do. They haven't played a down of football in the NFL. You have no way to tell if they're going to be good or not. There are rookies that are supposed to be the next great thing, right? Brian Bosworth was supposed to be a sure hit at middle linebacker, and then he ran into Bo Jackson and was done. As a Seahawks fan, I know that. But, there are guys that come out of nowhere and have sensational rookie campaigns as well. Kenneth Walker to the Seahawks last year, just to take another Seahawks example. He was, a second, third round draft pick? He wasn't the number one running back off the board. And he was one of the top running backs in the league last year. So you never know what you're going to get. And I think that rookie flex option is a fun one, and I think it's something that more leagues should try.
Yeah, I think I took by far that's been my favorite rule so far of the ones that we have tried. I think when we launched that rule, I'm pretty sure I had Josh Jacobs in his rookie. Got pretty lucky. He did very well as far as rookies go. I think my least favorite bonus rule has been the defensive players. We did have one year we got the defensive players. You end up with 1 to 3 points on average. Didn't really make a difference. You'd have a random corner or linebacker getting a pick six or something, maybe one game a year. It didn't really make a difference. Nobody followed it. No one really paid attention. They just grabbed whatever you said is the top whatever. I think the rookie flex was definitely the most interesting. You want higher scoring games. You had a third receiver, a third running back, that type of thing, or 2 flexes. I think we've done 2 flexes or specifically. We've done 2 quarterbacks in a league before. Wasn't terrible.
There's not enough quarterback.
It wasn't my.
There's not enough.
It wasn't my favorite. It was just.
There's not enough good quarterbacks in the league to support a 12-team league.
Well, then you get people who drafting 4 quarterbacks, and then someone's getting screwed.
Yeah, you're sitting there and you only got 1 quarterback in the 5th round, and you're like, well, maybe Marcus Mariota will get a nod this year. I don't know.
If you have smaller leagues, it might work, but I think at the 10 mark, that rule kind of
10-man league's about the limit for that, if I'm being honest. Because realistically, we're talking about maybe 8 really good quarterbacks in fantasy football consistently, maybe 10, 8 to 10. And then there's usually 1 or 2 teams where they got a middle of the road quarterback, but they got juggernauts at running back and receiver, and they're just like, "Come on, QB, give me 15 points."
Yeah, You're hoping Jared Goff scrambles for a 60-yard touchdown.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins, just don't throw 3 picks, baby. Just give me that nice 15, and Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb is going to carry me to victory. That's what you're thinking. So 2 quarterbacks is rough, especially for a larger league.
I think rookie flex is by far my favorite. I think just a second flex position would be okay. I think 2 quarterbacks I wouldn't recommend unless you have an 8-person league. An additional wide receiver, additional running backs, okay. I wouldn't even say it's that interesting to make it worth it. Defensive player, I'm not going to recommend. Outside of that, I think those have pretty much been outside of default. I think that's pretty much what we've tried before.
I've heard it experimented in certain leagues where they just leave out kickers, and I don't have a problem with it. I mean, there are certainly games every year where a kicker makes the difference because they have a 20-point game.
Yeah.
There's at least 1 or 2 games a year where some poor soul gets a great game out of 3 or 4 of his position players and loses because somebody on the other team has a 20-point kicker, 5
field goals.
Yeah, or because Kyle Tucker hit 3 60-yarders in a game, and you're just sitting there going, what am I supposed to do with it? Or Justin Tucker. Who's Kyle Tucker? I don't know.
Sounds like a Panther.
Anyway, probably. Yeah, but it's just it's nice to experiment. And in your if you have any non-serious leagues that are all just for fun, no money in it, and everything like that, by all means, experiment with it. But another thing I just popped up into my head: there are certain leagues out there that I haven't experienced that are way more complex. We're talking about keeper leagues. We're talking about salary cap leagues where you're actually buying players as you draft them.
Yeah, the auction
and
stuff.
trying to conserve money.
Yeah.
Those leagues I have never participated in, and they're a whole nother level of thought process. I mean, if you're in one of those leagues, kudos to you. I like football. I'm a fan, but I do fantasy football for fun, and that just seems like, borderline. I have to be an NFL scout if I want to take that seriously. So,
yeah, the auction leagues I'm not interested in. I think the keeper leagues, try it 1 year. I just kind of like the idea of everyone starting fresh every year and not thinking about, well, I have to think about drafting this guy because he could be great in 2 years. I like the idea of every year's fresh. That's what.
Yeah, the only way I think that the keeper league would work effectively is if it was paired with a rookie flex league. So, like, where the rookie flex that you draft has to be, that's the one you get to keep. So there's a variable then where potentially you could draft a rookie based on not only 1 year but what they could do in the future. I think that would be interesting. What do you think on that?
Yeah, it would take a little more involvement.
Oh, for sure.
I think you'd have to sell it. At least with our league, I think you'd have to sell it because we have such a wide range of football fans.
Yeah, that's true. We got hiking fans in our league.
Yeah. But I like the variation, man. I think it keeps it fresh. I do like the rookie only flex rule change. I think that's really cool. We've never really messed with scoring. I think we've pretty much kept that default. Like, kicks aren't worth more, touchdowns aren't worth more. We've only ever done half point PPR, so it's kind of a win-win. Both opinions on that. Outside of those rule changes, it's just half point PPR, and pretty much everything else is default. Just try that stuff out. Man, I think it's, you can always try it. I think keeper leagues, we might have to join a random to experiment.
Well, it was just an example. It was just an example where I thought it might be cool.
We just had to sell it to 10 other people, one at a time.
Well, it won't happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If the commissioner's the one that's selling the talking point to the league, Peter's the commissioner in our league, it's generally not going to work. Just because there are people, for whatever reason, in the fantasy football community, there's a vindictiveness towards whoever the commissioner is. And I just want to come out here as a non-commissioner and say that's BS.
Yeah.
All right, a commissioner of a fantasy football league has to deal with so much garbage from their quote-unquote friends on a regular basis, and people take that for granted. And anything that happens that's remotely inconveniences or negatively impacts their ability to win a fantasy football game, like a stat correction from ESPN that the league owner has no control over. What do you mean I got -2 there? That wasn't a fumble. No way. Like, I can't stress enough that y'all need to just go easy. Already.
I can't tell you how many times I've been accused of changing the rules halfway through the season when I have never changed the rules. Did we lose you there? I lost the sound there.
Hello?
Oh, there you are.
Hello?
Yep, I can hear
Hello?
you. I can hear you.
Okay. Well, you
Went through
What's up?
the speakers, not the.
that, so
I
we almost made it through.
I can cut it out. It's fine.
Okay.
What I was
All
gonna
right.
say is, yeah, so many times we've been accused of changing rules halfway through the season when I don't control the stat corrections, and no, I'm not changing the rules halfway through. That might be a great stopping point. We're at a minute. We're at an hour 10.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought that went well.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap it up. My name's Peter. I go by Not Ghost Stories on all things socials. I have Thomas Legit, aka Daddy Warbuckles, up in the house for our first.
I'll go D. So
Yeah, I'll go D.
I'll go D.
Okay, fair enough. And that's something we'll talk about maybe next episode, where we got our nicknames from, and shout out Coach Leach. We have a pretty special cameo from him. Past RIP.
Maybe we'll share that if you guys like the video or the pod or whatever we're gonna call this.
Yeah, it's a pod. Call it a pod. But we want to wrap this up as a bonus episode. Again, this is a test episode. See if you guys want to talk about sports, fantasy sports, anything in between. We want to keep doing it. It is fun. It is something we really, really enjoy. And I think that's how we'll close it up.